Banjo's back at it. A 19th century poetry slam, a roast battle for the ages, the Bulletin Debate. Here's the next instalment. It's called In Answer to Various Bards. Now, after four fellow poets start attacking Banjo across the pages of the Bulletin, it's easy to see that Banjo may have felt like he was being attacked on all fronts, maybe even goaded into the Bulletin Debate. After all, it was Lawson's idea that they should write against one another, even though Banjo threw the first punch with In Defence of the Bush. It was becoming more and more of a pile-on, so Banjo felt inclined to set the record straight, as he saw it anyway, that he was an optimist and that Lawson and co were mere gloomy pessimists. Rather, Banjo declared that he idolised and admired the wherewithal of bushfolk, and as such thought they should be honoured in verse. There was no blind romanticism about it, choosing rather to focus on the beauty, strength and golden reward of the bushman's toils rather than the darker shades of life outside the city. In Answer to Various Bards is a concession speech of sorts, Paterson waving a white flag and declaring he's out. No hard feelings or bad blood, let's just agree to disagree and maybe walk the wallaby together one day before painting the town red at the bars back in the city and swapping notes. In Answer to Various Bards by Banjo Paterson. Well, I've waited mighty patient while they all came rolling in. Mr. Lawson, Mr. Dyson, and the others of their kin, with their dreadful dismal stories of the overlanders' camp, how his fire is always smoky and his boots are always damp. And they paint it so terrific it would fill one's soul with gloom. But you know they're fond of writing about corpses and the tomb. So, before they curse the bushland, they should let their fancy range and take something for their livers and be cheerful for a change. Now, for instance, Mr. Lawson, well, of course we almost cried at the sorrowful description how his little Harvey died. And we lachrymose in silence when his father's mate was slain. Then he went and killed the father, and we had to weep again. Ben Duggan and Jack Denver too, he caused them to expire, after which he cooked the gander of Jack Dunn of Nevertire. And no doubt the bush is wretched, if you judge it by the groan of the sad and soulful poet with a graveyard of his own. And he spoke in terms prophetic of a revolution's heat, when the world should hear the clamour of those people in the street. But the shearer chaps who start it, why, he rounds on them the blame, and he calls them agitators who are living on the game. But I overwrite the bushman. Well, I own without a doubt that I always see the hero in the man from furthest out. I could never contemplate him through an atmosphere of gloom, and a bushman never struck me as a subject for the tomb. If it ain't all golden sunshine where the wattle branches wave, well, it ain't all damp and dismal, and it ain't all lonely grave. And of course, there's no denying that the bushman's life is rough, but a man can easy stand if he's built of sterling stuff. Though it's seldom that the drover gets a bed of eider down, yet the man who was born a bushman, he gets mighty sick of town. For he's jotting down the figures, and he's adding up the bills, while his heart is simply aching for a sight of southern hills. Then he hears a wool team passing, with a rumble and a lurch, and although the work is pressing, yet it brings him off his perch. For it stirs him like a message from his station friends afar, and he seems to sniff the ranges in the scent of wool and tar. And it takes him back in fancy, half in laughter, half in tears, to a sound of other voices and a thought of other years, when the woolshed rang with bustle from the dawning of the day, and the shear blades were a-clicking to the cry of wool away.
Then his face was somewhat browner, and his frame was firmer set, and he feels his flabby muscles with a feeling of regret. But the wool team slowly passes, and his eyes go slowly back to the dusty little table and the papers in the rack. And his thoughts go to the terrace where his sickly children squall, and he thinks there's something healthy in the bush life after all. But we'll go no more a-drovin' in the wind or in the sun, for our fathers' hearts have failed us, and the drovin' days are done. There's a nasty dash of danger where the long-horned bullock wheels, and we like to live in comfort and to get our regular meals. For to hang around the township suits us better, you'll agree, and a job at washing bottles is the job for such as we. Let us herd into the cities, let us crush and crowd and push, till we lose the love of roving and we learn to hate the bush. And we'll turn our aspirations to a city life and beer, and we'll slip across to England. It's a nicer place than here. For there's not much risk of hardship where all comforts are in store, and the theatres are in plenty, and the pubs are more and more. But that ends it, Mr. Lawson, and it's time to say goodbye. So we must agree to differ in all friendship, you and I. Yes, we'll work our own salvation with the stoutest hearts we may. And if fortune only favours, we will take the road some day, and go droving down the river 'neath the sunshine and the stars, and then return to Sydney and vermilionise the bars.